You're now listening to the Art of Reinvention show hosted by your boy Teflon John, where my goal is to change the world one person at a time by provoking thought. And you're now in the right place to receive motivation, inspiration, so you can make it throughout your day, so you can make it throughout your week. And so like I said, I just want you guys to sit back and just absorb all the content. And as I always say, one love, be blessed.
Hey, what up? It's your boy Willie Sanders, better known as Will Words of Wisdom. And I'm coming to you today to understand that I'm here to encourage you and also push your life in a better direction by looking at it in a different perspective. That's what I do. So I'm coming to you today. I'm about to talk to you real quick. I got 7 things I want to talk to you about on what's stopping you from changing. Like, I know a lot of people probably ask themselves that, but I just want to break down and give you some things that you may not notice in a different perspective on what's stopping you from changing. All right. So look, it's your boy Will, just about to give you some words of wisdom on what's stopping you from changing. First thing is fear. Now, fear is an unbelief of something we haven't seen. But what I've grown to realize, that God has placed the greatest things on the other side of fear. I'm going to say that again. God has placed the greatest things on the other side of fear. So the things that we're fearful of is because we are fearful of it as humans, because it's the unknown. Because we don't know it, we feel like, okay, because I don't know what the end is going to be, I don't know what might happen. You put yourself in a situation to where you don't go forward, not realizing there's something greater on the other side that can help you, that can push you to that goal, that can push you to that achievement, but yet we're fearful. And I know I asked a lot of people, like, what would you do if you wasn't fearful? Like, if the doctor told you that you had 6 months to live, why is it then that you try to live life to this full capacity when you can be doing it the whole time, but you need a doctor to tell you something? Right? So which goes into my second thing after fear, is being uncomfortable. A lot of us don't change because we don't like to be uncomfortable. Not realizing you need to be uncomfortable to get comfortable. And that's a process that you have to keep going through. So if you realize a lobster is born with a soft shell, but as it grows, it has to get uncomfortable to become comfortable. So once it starts growing, it gets uncomfortable in its shell, and then that shell breaks off because it has to keep growing. So for it to keep growing, you got to break out of that shell. So when you're uncomfortable and being uncomfortable, you got to realize you got to be uncomfortable to be able to be comfortable. And that's why sometimes we won't change. We'll be in a situation so long, or in a relationship so long, that we're uncomfortable, and we'll just sit there and be in it because it's comfortable. We've gotten to the point where it became the norm. So now when something good comes along, we're like, well, why am I uncomfortable? Like, this person treats me a whole lot better, or I feel a whole lot different. It's because you're uncomfortable and you want to be comfortable. All right. And which leads me to my next point, is facing reality. Like, a lot of us have problems. We have issues that we haven't dealt with, that all we did was throw it under the rug and kept repeating doing the same thing. And in our mind, we think because we're moving, we're going to get a different response. When you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're not going to get a different response. You're going to get the same thing that you did from day one. So if you're expecting a change, you got to face reality first. You got to face the thing or the issue or the problem that you have before you can move forward. Because you can be in a relationship with a problem and then you leave that relationship. If you never faced that first one, you're going to go to the next relationship with the same problem. And now you're trying to figure out why I keep having the same problem with just different people, because you didn't face reality. So that's what causes us also not to change. Because there's things that we're dealing with that has nothing to do with the person that we really need to deal with. And then when that happens, you end up going to my fourth point, is you start comparing yourself. And you don't do it like with a point of doing it intentionally. It just happens. And even though nothing just happens, it's a learned behavior. And what I mean by that is, look at how life is. Like coming up, there was, back in the day, they used to have like Feelogs. You know, Feelog was a brand. You know, you had Nike, you got your Adidas, and then you had other brands, but then you had Feelog. Why is it that it's 2019? Back in the day, Feelog wasn't a big thing, but now they're bringing it back and certain people are wearing it and now it's cool. When it's not the top, brand. Because they started comparing, okay, what are people liking? What is trending? So now you're comparing yourself to other people, not realizing that you're doing it and it's only a learned behavior. Like you're doing it because it's something that you learned. Like you have to see it. So it's like, okay, I want to wear, Jordans. Like you have to see it to be like, oh, I want to wear Jordans. Because people who never seen Jordans ain't trying to wear Jordans. People who never seen, Nike ain't trying to wear Nike. Because it's a learned behavior. And when you start comparing yourself not knowing that you're doing it, that's what normally happens. It's you started trending. And a lot of us don't change because we stuck in a certain trend or we stuck in a certain way or form that we don't want to adjust. Because adjustment makes us feel what? Uncomfortable. Which is why you won't change. And a lot of it goes to my next point, is knowing who you are. Like if you don't know who you are, you're going to accept all kinds of things. And once you accept all kinds of things, it's hard to undo something you've been doing for a long time. It's really hard to do. Because now you're focused on being a certain way when you don't want to learn other ways. So now you don't know who you are. Because what you did was you allowed people to keep taking from you and not adding to you. And now you're trying to figure out why your life is divided and not multiplied. I'm going to say that again. You let people subtract from you and they don't add to you. And then you're trying to figure out in your life why it's divided and not multiplied. It's because you haven't figured out who you are. You haven't figured out what you want. So it's hard for you. It stops you from changing because you haven't figured out exactly what you want. It's like when you're in school or when you're in college, it's like you keep changing majors. Like sometimes some of us have changed majors so many times because we haven't figured out who we are and what we want to do. And that would generate you to a point to where that would stop you from changing. Because if I don't know who I am, how can I evolve? How can I know what my purpose is? How can I be successful? And which leads me to my last 2 points I put together, which I feel like sums it up all, is your values and your standards. Like, what are your values and what are your standards? And if you don't have those, that'll stop you from changing. Because if you don't have values or standards, which means you don't have core needs, you don't have the things that you vow to do, you're lost. So you have to raise the standards and raise your values and not just accept anything. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think a lot of us, what stops you from changing is you understand you have to commit to do, once you do one thing, you got to do everything. And it's very hard to do that. So what stops you from changing at the end of the day, even though I give you these 7 things, I gave you fear, I gave you being uncomfortable, facing reality, comparing yourself, knowing who you are, standards and values. I gave you all 7 of those things, but at the end of the day, what stops you from changing, honestly, the answer is you. You will stop you from changing. Because to change, you have to make a decision. And a lot of us don't have the guts to make a decision, because we're trying to find out or make the right decision. And when you don't make the right decision, it puts you in a point to where you make no decision at all. And when you don't make a decision at all, that's a decision. Think about that. I'm gonna say it again. You don't have the guts to make a tough decision because you're trying to figure out in life to make the right decision, which leads you to not making a decision at all. But if you don't make a decision at all, that is a decision. So what really stops you from changing is you. So look, I hope y'all enjoyed that. I really think that somebody needs to hear that. Like I said, my name is Willie Sanders. I'm better known as Will's Words of Wisdom. And what I do is I encourage people, and I want you to see life from a different perspective. That's what I do. So hey, look, it's your boy Will, just giving you some words of wisdom on what stops you from changing. And I'd like to thank my boy Jonathan Smith, better known as Teflon Don, for allowing me to do what I do and to help somebody. All right. So look, as I always say before I end, it's your thoughts, it's your decision, it's your life. In spite of it all, don't give up. It's your boy Will, just giving you some words of wisdom. When there's a will, there's a way.
We would like to thank you for listening to this episode of The Art of Reinvention by Teflon John. And we encourage you to share this episode across all your social media platforms. And we also encourage you to visit our website at www.imteflonjohn.com and follow us on all our social media platforms at facebook.com/realteflonjohn, twitter.com/realteflonjohn, and instagram.com/realteflonjohn. And while you're on Facebook, go ahead and like our page so you can receive first-hand notifications every time we go live with a motivational video or any motivational content. And as I always say, one love, be blessed.